Greetings, everybody. Hello, games. Sean Murrey, everybody. Now, I wanted to talk about my 2019 wish list for updates to No Man's Sky as a fan. And I don't know if you really care to hear what me as a player has to say. I've uploaded. Okay, I don't know how to word everything. I've not always been a great speaker. I'll be upfront with you on that. I love your recent updates. I haven't actually seen everything yet. There's a lot of progress I have yet to make in your game, but my wish list still is something I think is relevant, so I'm going to bring it up. So here it is. My 2019 wish list for No Man's Sky updates. Now, you can count them, or I can count them. Maybe, I don't know, whoever agrees with me, post in the comments below. And if you agree with me, like and comment and subscribe. This is a variety channel. It's not just a gaming channel. You're not going to see footage of the video game while this video is playing. This is just me talking at the camera, talking to you. So let's get started. First update that's first and foremost on my mind. I call it the Sentinel update. Those Sentinels on planets. This update would effectively be the manufacturing facilities, whole cities that are manufacturing and testing facilities all put together, and materials gathering facilities where they manufacture Sentinels. These facilities, if you go there, you'll see Guardian Sentinels, specifically designed to protect these factories from people who want to steal resources. Those Sentinels have some pretty good resources. Late in the game, or when you're further along in your progression of the game, you can take them down and get really special resources. That's just a bare bones, okay? There's probably more I can come up with later down the line. A cities update, where all races have cities. And I would like to see more variety of aliens. I've only seen 3 species. In such an expansive universe, I want to see more. I want to not be able to predict what I'm going to see. I want to be where even the computer can lose track. But so far, it only has 3 to try to figure out who's who. Korvax, Gek. I'll look into it. But, and then there's this 4th race, which is pretty cool, but I still think you need more. Well, the Vy'keen. So I had a delay. My memory just finally popped back up. It's an annoying problem. But yeah, Korvax, Gek, and Vy'keen. And yeah, they have variances between their appearances. It could be a conglomeration of various races, but Vy'keen, for the most part, have a similar head shape, which is jutted out on the bottom, and they're like hunched over. Their heads are hunched over. Gek are always short, stubby little guys that have to waddle around, and the Korvax are always humanoid robots. That actually brings me to another thing. I want all the races to have lore updates, not just to their like Atlas profiles, but to their lives. This would tie into a cities update, which would answer some questions I've had about who they are, their identity. For example, are all Gek really that short? Do they all have the same size? Or do they vary between sizes? I know that they vary in color and face shape, but do they vary in height or width? Height and width, yeah. Korvax, are they all humanoid? I've seen differences in their head shape, but nothing more. I want to know, are they all human shaped? They're an entire race of robots. Why be limited to just one shape? The Sentinels aren't. I'm sure there's a story behind that. And I would love to see that explored in future updates. Ecology. I would like to see an ecology update. It's basically like you went to National Geographic and just ran with it. Basically, the animals are too generic, in my opinion. The flying creatures, they don't land. They don't perch on trees. Creatures don't hunt them. This is just with the flying creatures, of course, but I could go on, and I intend to name off a few examples. There's no rodents. No little critters crawling inside the trees and stuff, living inside the plants that you're destroying. There's nothing to see. Everything's just there for you to harvest. But what if you saw a little critter going into a cactus or something, and it was like some sort of desert squirrel? And you saw it burrowing into a plant. So this plant is its own map inside it, like a mini map for the squirrel to nest in. The squirrel is essentially doing the equivalent to the land modifier. The squirrel can dig into it and put its babies in there. And if you kill it, you're taking away its home. You're being a jerk. And there's predators out there that actually eat the squirrel. Bunny rabbit type bodies. Or creatures that are like kangaroos. You've had creatures that are pretty generic. They all look like grazing animals. And every time I go out there, all I see is the same generic shapes, just with a different head. If I'm lucky, I might see one that's different enough that I can name it. But I've never seen any of the more exotic shapes that are supposed to be offered. There's no cats. And if there is a cat-like creature, it's been easy to miss. There's no dinosaur-like creatures, except the ones I have seen are kind of forgettable. They don't feel very alive. Like they feel like their movement is kind of jerky. They've been better recently, but I feel like there's still more potential. Let's see. And that's the ecology update. The ecology still has more there, though. Snakes. Remember your trailer? Forever ago? 2015 ago? There was like a slithery snake-like creature. There's no snakes in your game. And you don't have biomes, like, you have biomes, but look at Earth. Is it so hard to believe that all these other planets might not follow a simple archetype? There'd be more geological features, but one feature would be more dominant than all the rest on every one. But the other geological features would still make their way through. I'm supposed to believe that on a radioactive planet, everything's going to look like a desert, even with the water? What if there's trees and forests that are the radioactive forests, but they need the radiation? In other words, what's, good fresh air here is pollution over there. Radioactive underwater life, where the water is so frequently irradiated that you need the strongest radiation shields just to even attempt it. Radiation soaking up critters. That the second they get near you, they soak the radiation right out of you. So you're always trying to get close to these critters. You don't want to kill them. Okay. I took a moment to think a bit about what more I might like to see. But the ecology update's a big one. Because it's not just about the creatures, it's about the biomes. They would have it where rivers would cut through and shape rocks and stuff like that. Volcanoes would burst open, destroying sections of the world and floating around. Creatures would have to run away to survive, and you'd see plumes bursting the clouds apart. And it wouldn't be clouds that just form only specifically over the volcano. These would be the clouds that are already present, being moved. There would be underwater volcanoes as well. And it would affect the geology of the area, the geography of the area. Different types of rock that take different levels of terrain manipulator strength to deal with. Different forms of soil. Creatures that dig into the soil and make their own tunnels. Snakes would be in that category. Alligator-like life forms. Creatures that just sit staring and waiting for you to get too close. Some are mammalian, some are reptilian. The mammalian ones have much more cognitive faculties and are a little bit more ingenuitive when chasing you down. They have better AI. The reptilian ones just think with their reptile brain. You invade their territory, then they'll attack. You don't invade their territory, they will not. You get to see other creatures stupid enough to try it. Sometimes reptiles will get into fights with each other. Then insects. Creatures that are actually really small. In game. Right now, there's no actual bugs. And if there is bugs, they're like these huge things. But what about the tiny bugs? I would like to see that included. Bugs are as big as real-life flies. Since they're procedurally generated, and have it where you scan them. But scanning works better when they're in groups. Ants, or something akin to ants. Maybe bugs like we've never seen before, that fill the niche of bugs, but are not actually bugs. But they're not all just a whole bunch grouped together. Bugs that will eat each other show up too. Really tiny creatures, like miniaturized versions, are so small. They're like snakes are like this big that actually exist, that are mistakable worms. And then you have a creature that's huge, but the problem is the current system you have, it's simply the same creature just resized. But think in terms of like the gardener snake or the anaconda. Sure, they have a similar body plan, but the way that their body just lays out in the world is different. Like, there's tiny little things that like have a thin, slender body. Some are like little leaves of a body. Some snakes will flatten out and just fly like paper in the wind, and they'll glide. What if those flying long snake eel things? Their body is so rigid that when it flies, I can't figure out how they're flying. The birds are self-explanatory, but they never land. I never see them go down into the water to eat. I mean, I see them make various movements like a kite, but I never see them really having to deal with the weather. That brings me to another point, actually. Weather dynamics. There are none. There's no... The weather you have, you do have weather, but it's kind of surface level. It doesn't leave any aftermath. There's no consequences to the weather. For example, let's say there's a huge storm. It's an arbitrary, ubiquitous storm. And every time I play it. Blizzards, okay. What about tsunamis and tornadoes that will pick you up and swing you around if you're caught in the vortex and throw you and hope you got your shields up. Maybe use your thrusters before you hit and touch down. Or what if you get caught in a hurricane? Like you see a hurricane on planet's surface and you think, oh, well, that's a nice cloud formation. Then you land in it, and your entire ship is like, because your ship, the wings were facing, and the wind resistance were to hit all at once. And all of a sudden, even your force field is the only thing protecting you at that point. And you didn't recharge it. And you're flying into a mountain. Not those really tall hills. An actual mountain. Have mountains in there. You have really tall hills and valleys, but no mountains. You ever play Lara Croft's, the Rise of the Tomb Raider and things like that, and there's like actual mountain climbing? Or like God of War, and there's these huge mountains, and he has to go vertical just to get anywhere? And the entire game could take place on a mountain. That's why I was expecting from No Man's Sky to see stuff like this everywhere. To see continents, defined continents, and the land is pushed up. Geology and all that. That's what I want to see. And all procedurally generate tectonic plate mechanics on each planet. But each planet has different tectonic plates. And there's like a history. And creatures have evolved to live in these places. So you have creatures that are evolved to deal with mountains, kind of like billy goats. But not just billy goats. You have rams and other creatures. Amphibians that take the place of gators. What if there's a planet that's got one type of life that's mostly dominant, like apes, amphibians, elephants are mostly dominant? What if the aliens could be procedurally generated? Or you see a race of people that have a city and have just entered into their western stage, or some comparable equivalent. And these are animals transitioning into tribes. And then you see tribes transitioning into early cities. And then you go to a planet where the people have just now reached certain stages. So all these are races specific. You can only find them on this one planet. They'll only be generated there. They have not dominated the rest. The Gek are everywhere. The Korvax are everywhere. But this planet, these people here are special to this world. Like an irradiated planet where people are just now in their 1920s. I'm just letting my imagination run off here for the fun of it. But imagine we're in ancient Egypt or something, and you see a sentinel come by. You realize you're not in Egypt. And the sentinels are all over the hieroglyphs. I believe I've gotten sidetracked. But that's not just the ecology update. Now I'm going to call that the civilizations update. Which is one with all these people showing up. But they're creatures. They're classified as creatures. But they're also classified as aliens. They're a dual class. They're not there to be OP. They're there to be a unique new culture. And you see some that are just entering, and you see these primitive shuttles by various races. Some reptilians, but they're specific to that solar system. You can only find them there, making them special. And if you come back, you'll always find them again, if you remember where the heck you're going. And then they see this hyper advanced space station. Like, imagine the space race with Kennedy, and we spot this super advanced space station, and we're still busy trying to get our rockets just to make it to the moon and back. And we see there's all these people just doing their own thing, completely ignoring us. Imagine you are being treated like Area 51, and then the race of that planet sticks you in an SCP Foundation base with all the artifacts of the Atlas that they've been finding, all the anomalies of Atlas. And it's like a 1950s Area 51 conspiracy thing. And then you're being interrogated by these primitive beings. Are you a part of the other group of their own race? Kind of like our issues with, like, you're in their Cold War, so they're at war with themselves still. That's why I call it the Civilizations update. It'd be hilarious. it's kind of like a look at our own race, but here's the thing, not every one of them is humanoid. They're just at that level of technology. But keep in mind, this is built with them in mind, so if they're not really humanoid, you won't be able to pick up their stuff to use it unless it's modified. You're simply trying to learn about the technology they developed. Let's say they developed laser weapons, but in every other way, they somehow still managed to be in the Stone Age. Yet they got laser weapons. Except for you look at it and you realize this is their design. This looks nothing like what you have. And you get to look at blueprints. You get to craft. Which is a segue to another update. I call it the crafting update. Which is an update where you get to put components together. Like, you don't just hold down the button and boom, it shows up in your inventory. What if you actually had to put objects together and you got to experiment with different configurations? What if you find a configuration that was better? Think in terms of the Minecraft crafting system with No Man's Sky graphics. I wanted to try something different with crafting. And people could learn mechanisms through this kind of minigame. But this minigame would actually make the piece that you put together exist. Or you could just do auto crafting, which is what we do anyway. But it would be reclassified as auto crafting because you have the option to do it manually and maybe make something better. That would mean user-generated content could be resold in-game, which would add another layer to the online gameplay. Online gameplay development. Imagine you built something, Sean Murray, manually, and it got saved to your database. Then you could auto-craft it over and over. But let's say you made something better than just the in-game model. That's what I'm coming up with. This is an idea. I'm not a developer. I have Blender, but I'm not developing it. I don't know where to begin. But it would kind of give people a sort of a generic idea of engineering. It would get them to at least dabble in engineering, in a very basic form of engineering. Oversimplified, but they would learn something. And that could be fun. What if instead of doing typical things, what if you were just set on a job just to drop satellites around the planet? Or what if you were told to spy on another country? You could just choose to say no, that you're not going to assist in their conflicts, do the whole Star Trek thing, or you could just help be a spy and choose to be maniacal. Would the Sentinels stop you? I actually don't know. Would they side with the people of the planet? Well, what if the people of the planet are fighting against each other? What would the Sentinels do? Would they intervene in the conflict? I don't know. Actually, that's the other thing about the Sentinels. I'm getting sidetracked, but Sean Murray, assuming you're watching this video, because this video is mainly aimed at you and your team. Sentinels attract the player and the people if they harvest too much of their environment. But let's say the Sentinels watch a species transition from just being basic animals, and I watch them transition into the dominant species, where they're no longer just simple animals anymore. They're thinking beings like us. They're no longer just simple mammals. They're having gray matter now. Not just the limbic system, but now there's gray matter. They're at that stage. The brain's gotten a bit bigger. The cranium has changed shape to accommodate that brain. Our brains are shrinking, but I can't account for that. But they're starting to lose some of their primitive features that were associated with that. And now they're starting to show features for putting tools together. Whatever kind of... You give all of them hands, but what if they have a different kind of appendage that does the same job? You have no non-humanoids, I noticed. I like to see the Korvax demonstrate how many forms they can take. aside from humanoid. How many layouts and body plans they could possibly have. And then show them doing specific jobs with each body plan. What if a Korvax ship was literally a Korvax? Not just a ship piloted by a Korvax, but what if the ship itself was a Korvax? They are a race of robots. And I feel like that whole fact has not been taken advantage of. They have the same needs as the Gek and as the player. But Korvax, being as they're robots, I don't know why they have every one of those same needs. I mean, they just eat raw carbon. Wouldn't life forms eat food? Like the Gek, wouldn't they want to actually eat something? None of them, I'm running on. Blah. Breathing room. It's super exciting. I could go on and gush about just how many updates you could put in just to one thing. So I'm going to skip again to the next thing. The planets update. This update would include barren moons like the moon we have. There's no re-entry effect because there's no atmosphere at all. Like, not even a thin one. So when you go in, the animation for fire hitting the ship or resistance of your ship having turbulence wouldn't occur on this particular journey. So you go in and landing would actually be a little bit different because gravity is way lighter. It'd have a different feel. You watch your ship kind of trying to keep up with the planet and getting down on it. And then you discover that it's got coarse sand and everything. Sand keeps covering everything. There's craters everywhere. That's just our kind of moon. But I think our moons like our moon deserve a place in No Man's Sky. Not everything is beautiful. But wouldn't that be cool if the game took advantage of that fact? So you could just marvel at everything. And let's see. Gas giants and asteroid belts. I noticed that you just run into meteors randomly, but what if there were specifically belts of really big asteroids that stay in a fixed position for the most part? That are not super close to each other, but are really far away. Or a Kuiper belt, which is mostly just ice. But in the gas giants, there's nowhere to land, which is actually really cool. But what if you could attach collectors to your vessel? Like, what if you attached actual gas collectors and you go in and you get metallic hydrogen? Something you can't get on planets, on normal planets. You have to go into a gas giant to get it, and you have to go deep, 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 and wait till the clouds reach a certain color. But the ship starts warning you, pressure increasing, or something like that. And you have to go in with plenty of charge. But this metallic hydrogen or these other theoretical gases show up. And the deeper you go, the crazier it gets. And if you get your ship a high enough level, you can go to the core of just this one little giant, this gas giant. The core that exists to be the gravitational pull of the entire gas giant. And you see vaporized iron, like iron gas, aluminum gas, all these things. And then you see them get compressed into something even more insane until it becomes solid again. But imagine a place that's so intensely hot that it vaporizes gas and solidifies hydrogen. Or let's have even more fun. Let's say that there's a gas giant, but life evolved on it. Some form of abiogenesis or some other form of life began somehow, and he evolved as an airborne microbe. So these creatures don't flap their wings everywhere. They didn't develop musculature like us. These are creatures that are inherently dedicated flyers. They have to be. And they are in the life zone of the planet. And all of them are dedicated flyers. And then you find a creature that's like the size of a whale. And the land isn't actually land, it's just another creature. And you're landing your ship on a creature's back. This creature doesn't flip or turn over. This creature flies constantly level. It's like those flying landmasses, except for this is an animal that is like a dual purpose creature. We just happen to live on it. What do you think about that, Sean Murray? There's so many options. There's so many possibilities. I could just go on. Seriously though, I might actually have to make a second video. I love your work, Sean Murray. And I do hope you continue making big updates. You know what? Before I end this, I'm going to cover an update that I think is just fitting. You know those abandoned facilities? They have a distinctive feel. The mysterious music, the growths all over the abandoned building. There's a story there. How many of you are thinking of Lovecraft right now when you think of those buildings? And you think of all the mush and the eyeball things and the teeth everywhere? There's literally a Lovecraftian creature that looks like that. I forgot what it's called, but it looks like that. It's just nothing but stuff everywhere. I want cosmic creatures. Creatures that are born in space and are huge. So big you could literally build a space station on one. So huge that, like, there's been creepypastas written about it, Sean Murray, where a person can do something that your game does currently not allow, which is flying outside of the solar system. Which I don't know why it doesn't allow you to just fly outside like you said you could. And the distances between would be so vast. Anyway, in the creepypasta, they see these planets, and then they see the planets blink. I mean, of course, you all seen eyes blink, but just imagine my eyes were planets. How would the players react to realizing those are eyes of a creature so big that it has to live in between solar systems? Can't live on them, and it's a creature that's so big. Does it even have a goal, or is it just an animal? Not all of them are just animals, though. Some of them are truly something else. And sentinels have a purpose that's related to these things. Some of them are there to protect you from them. But it depends on the creature. Some of them are protecting the creatures. These interstellar celestial monsters. Some of them are friendly and benign. But other times, if you're really unlucky, you really got to get your warp engine going to get out of there. That sense of peril, because what if a creature just starts swiping at a galaxy? Or not a galaxy, but there are intergalactic creatures. But what if you end up running into an interplanetary, intersolar system creature, and it decides to just lay in, and you see its arm closing in slowly because it has to move its mass, and you see its appendage coming at you, and you have like a week to gather enough resources to make a warp engine. But it's coming at you really fast, and you can see its appendage coming at you. Whew. And you can feel it because you know what's going to happen when it hits. It's going to go from being like weeks, but then you'll actually see it gradually coming closer real fast. And you realize that there's waves coming around. I mean, it's not coming at you slowly. It's just really far away right now. It's several weeks away, but once it starts getting close enough, you start seeing planets. The second you see one planet get hit, you're all going to get hit. It's not going to take forever to come through. It's just going to look slow from far away, but then you realize it's coming at you fast. In other words, get your warp drive ready. Urgency. You may have set your base there. Maybe that wasn't a good idea. So then all of a sudden, prime real estate plants become an issue. The Lovecraftian update. So I'm going to end it on that thought. So Sean, thank you for your updates, and I hope you like my ideas. And everyone else who plays No Man's Sky, I hope you like my ideas too. It's a really good game. If you haven't tried it, please give it a chance. It's just really awesome. And these recent updates have been amazing. This latest update will update your online play and apparently VR. And I've heard rumors that the NPCs walk around now. I want to see that. I'm sure that's not the third major thing you want to bring up, but if it is, cool. But he seems to be more excited about the big stuff, and I don't think character animation is one of those big ones, unless it plays a part, like in a role. So I do look forward to everyone's input. I hope that feedback is positive, but honestly, I'm not going to demand positivity from everybody. I just am crossing my fingers. But No Man's Sky has become amazing. It has an amazing community, and I really hope that they add. I hope that some of my ideas reach their ears, and I hope that you, Sean Murray, and your team appreciate what I've recommended, what I would like to see. So before I close, which I'm already at that point, I could just drone on and gush. Your work is really impressive. There's still more things I could come up with, but I'm going to close by summing this up. A Sentinel update, an ecology update, an NPC update, a planetary update, and a Lovecraftian update. Maybe I skipped over. That's bound to happen with me because my brain bounces everywhere like a ping pong ball or a really rubbery bouncy ball. But I think I've summed up my major points. What I would love to see, this is just pure opinion, my wish list. But wishes don't make it so, as Picard says. But that being said, I'd be very happy to see that that's what's next. I don't know how long I have to wait for each one. That is okay, because as long as I know it's happening, as long as it's like a big teaser thing being released on Twitter, I'm happy. As long as you make sure it's done right and done well, I'm happy. That these ideas are executed and implemented well. Take your time. Just do give spoilers so we get our fix. Because these updates are almost as exciting as the game itself. Actually, the game itself is almost as exciting as its own next update. Because it makes the game a more full experience. So do please continue updating. Whatever crazy idea you have, put it on the table. And then say, okay, where in the road is this going to take place? What does it affect in this hypothetical universe of No Man's Sky? And where would it fit in if it did? So please continue. And keep up the good work. Thank you, Sean Murray. Thank you, Hello Games. Keep it up. Don't give up. Keep it up.